I am the president of Hunter Recruitment Advisors, but what I'm probably my biggest title is known for is I am the person who rescues owners as well as business leaders from the insomnia and the insanity of trying to find people to help grow your company. Does that sound like you? Yep, not alone? All right. Well, today what we're going to do and what I've been asked to do is to talk to you a little bit about how do we take the approach of recruiting to try to help the organizations that we've already worked with SGI that might be able to be applicable for you. The first thing that we always try to do when we're talking to any of our clients is to understand the idea of what is our present case? Where do we live today? Anybody feel like they're living in a Charlie Brown kind of world? All right. So, who has an idea of why we might be having this employment gap? Yes, ma'am. Fear of hard work? Okay, I think that probably racks up there. Yep, how about anybody else? Somebody, I heard say COVID? All right. What if I were to tell you that about 10 years ago until now, we have actually created roughly about 10 million homes? Sounds like a lot of houses. But what if I also told you that we also created 12 million families that need those same houses? All of a sudden now, we have a backlog of families that need to have homes to be able to go to. When you compound that with the ability to grow that industry with more homes because of COVID and other pieces, all of a sudden, you have homes that need to be remodeled or homes that need to have fixes because they're staying in them longer. And as a result, you as leaders living in this environment know you're getting more calls. You're getting people needing to be with you or needing to use your services every day. And as a result, housing prices are going up. The same set of housing prices that we faced just this last year. And so, as a result, economists will say that through 2024, there will be no change. You're going to be living in this reality with a lot of demand and a little bit of labor for the next 3 years. That can be a little bit of a frightening sight. So what do we do about it? How do we approach this? Because what we're doing today is not working. Is that right? Okay, so the very first thing that we do is we try to think about who is our competition. Your competition is no longer just the other HVAC or electrical company or plumbing company that's around the corner. Because now your competition is the Starbucks. Your competition is the mechanic around the corner. Because people are changing jobs and new industries for better quality of life. The reason I know this is because our unemployment rate as of last month was 3.8%. In a perfect economy where everybody gets jobs whenever they want it, it's at 6. This is a seller's market. And if they want to move jobs, they can. In fact, if you're a plumber right now, you whisper in the wind, I want a new job. You can find a new job. And I know a few of you are chuckling with that idea because you know it's true. So what can we do? The way that we look at Hunter about recruiting is to think of it as a marketing function and not as a human resources function. And so we approach recruiting from the same way that you would approach the way that you acquire clients. You think about the idea that, hey, we know we have to have a target client. We know that we're going to spend a certain amount of money and budget, and we're going to convert them into actual clients for our company. But the same thing has to be done in terms of your candidates. And that's the approach that we're going to talk to you about this afternoon. So first thing we talk about is what we measure. Are we measuring the right things? Your company's number one expense versus what we track. In your stand-ups, your daily stand-ups, how often do you talk about the cost of turnover? Probably nobody. Nope. But it's 40% of your expense. In your daily stand-ups, how often do you talk about employee tenure? Nope. But it's 40% of your expenses. I don't want to drill into it too hard, but the idea is that we have to begin to refocus what is really driving our company. It's our people. It's always been our people. It will always be our people. And until we start to reward our managers with that focus, then we'll continue to see this problem. In fact, one of the things that we begin to investigate is the retention of your organization before we ever start to look at your recruiting. Because we could recruit and recruit and recruit, but if we haven't built in the practices to keep your people in your organization, you'll never keep them. And so that's one of the things that I would always stress to you is, what are we doing to keep our people, the internal recruitment? The next thing we always talk about is the company. How often do we compare ourselves to our competitors? Do we actually take an honest look at ourselves in the market and say, is our salary competitive with our neighbors? Is the benefit offering that we're giving comparative to our neighbors? And if it's not, what are we going to do about it? Because again, this is a seller's market. They can choose to use their services anywhere, and we have to be willing to adjust. And then ultimately, we have to think about the cost of recruitment conversion. So again, thinking about your customer conversion, you have to think of recruiting in the same fashion. And what is the cost of doing that? Your average cost to hire a tradesperson will cost you between $6,600 to about $8,500 per hire, depending on what part of the country and what type of licensing is required. For every single person that you replace in your organization, you will drop another $6,600 to $8,500 at a time. When that number starts to hit 20, 30 people, it becomes bigger than you've ever imagined. And so you have to begin to think about, what am I going to do to be able to slow that number down and also honestly reflect on the idea that this is a number I have to live with to be able to maintain business. Now, when we think about that, we also have to consider, if I make an investment of, say, $6,000 and I put somebody in a truck, then I've also made back that investment tenfold. In fact, sometimes 15-fold. And so we have to think about it from those terms. Often I meet with owners and they're very upset about the idea that they have to hire or recruit somebody in. But if we think about it from a mathematics perspective, let's just say the average truck may do $400,000. You may yield about 15% of that. Is that a fair, from your guys' experiences, does that seem about right? Whew, tough crowd, very quiet. All right, there we go. All right, got a little bit of a laugh. So if we're bringing home about 60 grand and I told you it was going to take $6,000 to find your next employee. In fact, if I just said, you give me $6,000 in a year's time, I'll give you 60, would you take that deal? All right, see some head nods. Then that's the way we have to think about it when we talk about hiring for people. We have to think about this as an investment and not as a pain. Because that's what happens a lot of times as owners. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, I'm an owner of a company. I feel it. I live it with you every single day. The final piece that we talk to our team about is full-time recruitment. And I'm not saying that you need to hire a full-time recruiter if your company is not the size that demands it. What I'm saying is that you have to think of recruiting for your company on a full-time basis. That means from a branding standpoint, from a targeted marketing standpoint, from the ability to have your career page ready to go to bring in as much talent as possible. This needs to be done so that you are pipelining people the entire year. And if you have a full-time recruiter, that's great. If you have a recruiting team that supports you during those off seasons, that's great. But you always have to be thinking about bringing in the next batch of talent. What often happens in our business is that we get busy and then we stop and we lose focus on it. And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, we've got more business than we know what to do with. And now we've got to tackle recruiting. And that's really hard to do when you have 4, 5, 6 hats to wear. And so that's one of the things that we really try to stress to our teams and our clients, is that recruiting never stops. Measure twice, cut once. I really love this slide because this is probably, myself included, I've cut once realize I messed up, say some swear words, go back to the hardware store, and then learn how to measure twice again. That ever happened to anybody? There we go. 2 honest people. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. So when we talk about measuring and truly measuring what we do, we have to identify the fact that your ratings matter. So does anybody have an idea what I'm talking about when I'm saying your ratings matter? Your local, that's right. Did you guys know that you're actually being rated right now by your employees? I'll show you. Right now, Indeed and Glassdoor rates you, just like you do Google reviews. You guys work so hard to get Google reviews every single day. But your employees are doing the exact same thing about your organization every single day. And men in particular, over 60% will go to ratings before they'll actually apply to your job. And if they do apply to your job, they will look at your ratings before they'll take your interview. I know we're all experiencing this. How many times have you been ghosted for an interview? Yep. I promise you, what contributes to that is that they have applied to the job because we're all serial appliers, and then they look at the rating of the company and decide, nope, not interested. It is vitally important for you to understand that you're being rated, even when you don't realize it, by different job boards. But the biggest ones are Indeed and Glassdoor. And it's particularly important to remember that you have to address those. Brand page awareness. Did you guys know that you have an automatic brand page that you didn't even create? Yep. Indeed and Glassdoor did that for you as well. Now, you can choose to fill it out, but you have a brand page. A lot of you have amazing stories. You have amazing histories with your companies, but often you keep that in-house. And the only way to reach this new crop of candidates is to share your story, to be able to share why you would want to work there. What makes your company special? What does make your company special? I'm curious to hear. And I know it's a little hard to hear back here in the convention, but really, what makes your company special? Is it your people? Yep, I see a couple hands. Is it special trips that I've seen some companies take their employees on? Is it the events that they take them to, like Christmas parties? All that has to be shared, because when I'm evaluating as a candidate the kind of place that I want to work at, I want to see that. And so you can even see that here with one of our own SGI clients, where they share their experience. We get a chance to see a little bit about their video and their testimony, as well as why they join us. You get to see the reviews and snapshots, as well as they're reviewing your salaries. They're aggregating all this information just from your own job postings. This is happening without even your influence into it. And there's nothing that really can change about that, so you have to learn to work within it. Take advantage of this to be your own marketing page. The next thing that comes up is the mobile candidate. Today, you have been writing your career pages for desktops. It has always been the case, and we've gotten very comfortable with it. But 75% of all of your candidates now apply with a phone. And if you are designing your web page for easy use and not using the phone, you're losing. It is extremely important to remember that you have 3 clicks or swipes before you actually lose a candidate from applying to your career page. It's extremely important for you to remember to create a mobile page that's easy enough for them to want to apply to. Because again, if we make it hard, they can just move on to the next employer. And then finally, that's the removing the hurdles piece. Anybody that has an applicant tracking system currently in the trades that has more than asking for a name, email address, and possibly phone number, you're doing yourself a disservice. You really need to rely on your recruiters to obtain more information, because you need to make sure that the application process is as easy as possible for any of your potential applicants. The reason, again, 3.8% unemployment. They have options. They have lots of options. And we have to make it as easy as possible to bring that talent in. There are ultimately 3 ways that we learn how to do marketing for recruitment. It is know your audience, and that's knowing your candidates, or knowing your team, actually, I should say. Reach your audience, and listening to your audience. Now, when I talk about your audience, I'm talking about your existing employees to begin with. Take the time to really research them. That's what we do. We take the time to learn about your employees, not just from what they like about the culture of the company, but learn about where do they shop? What do they listen to? Where do they listen to it? You have to learn these things so you can learn about the habits of your employees, so that you can ultimately learn to do the next thing, reaching your audience. You have to reach them where they're at. Often we get stuck in the channels that we're used to. We get stuck in the channels that we think that were good for us. But in reality, we have to find the ways like Instagram instead of Facebook. We have to find the ways that are going to reach them like geofencing instead of just putting up a poster. We have to find the ways that are going to reach them as a candidate as opposed to the way that we like. I love this image because we have so much that we want to say, and there's so much of what they want to hear, but it's up to us to find out the relevance. And that's our job as employers and as a recruiting team. And then ultimately, take the time to listen to your existing team. Your most valuable employee, your most valuable candidate, I should say, is the employee that you have in your building. Find the time to make time to listen to them and find out what truly makes them want to stay. Additional measuring tools to consider. 1, compare your notes. There's a lot of people sitting in this room, and all of you are in the same situation. You have a great resource with SGI to be able to compare notes with one another. This is an amazing building of people. So compare your notes with each other. Secondly, you have an amazing group of coaches. I've had the pleasure of getting to meet a lot of them one-on-one, and they have a wealth of experience. And so I want to encourage you to continue to work with your coaches when it comes to recruiting. And then a little selfish plug for myself. Call your friends at Hunter Recruitment, because this is what we do. We literally, day and night, work to recruit in the trades business. Our recruiters do nothing but work in the trades industries. We hire for all the positions that you have, as well as administrative roles. And we take the focus of learning what it takes to hire a plumber, an electrician, an HVAC technician, an administrator. We understand that for your specific industry. We know that you're wearing 8 hats. We have one sole focus, and that's to hire for you. Make sure to check us out at booth 109 if you have more questions. And because I do not want to take any more of these lovely measuring tapes, feel free to come by to see how your recruitment measures up. Thank you so much. Have a great day.